There is a big question underpinning, particularly air travel, which is how long can prices keep surging well beyond where regular inflation is? And just to give you a sense, in February, year-over-year inflation came in at 27.4% for air flights, just year over year. That is incredible. That is more than twice the rate of inflation anywhere. Helane Becker joins us now to talk about how long this can continue, whether margins just keep expanding, and when we start to get some of the pushback that we heard from the likes of President Biden himself yesterday. Helane Becker, senior research analyst at Cowen. So let's just start there. Why has it been that consumers are not pushing back more to these incredible price increases?
Well, I think there are two reasons, Lisa. The first is that a year ago in the first quarter, there was still Omicron. So that was one issue. And then the second issue has a lot to do with summer travel, especially international travel. Because remember, a year ago, the U.S. didn't remove restrictions until June 11th. And a lot of people had already, most summer trips are planned between mid-May and mid-March, actually the other way around, right? March and May. And they had already decided where they were going. And a lot of stuff wasn't open yet. So now everything is open. People are tired of being home. They want to travel. They feel like they've missed out on a lot, and they're going. And you have huge demand. We're about equal to where we were in 2019, but we have between 10 and 20% fewer seats available. And the result is that with demand, even with business travel and international not being 100% back, with demand being so strong and exceeding supply, airlines are pushing up fares and will continue to do so until there's significant pushback.
And you're not seeing any significant pushback so far?
I'm not seeing it in the summer months for sure. I'm a little worried about once we get past Labor Day in general, because we normally see a dip, but also I'm a little worried because I think by then people may be exhausted by the prices. And of course, we don't think this summer is going to be significantly better than last summer, especially in the New York area where we have a decided lack of air traffic controllers, and the government asked the airlines if they would help by reducing capacity in the market. And most of the airlines who are operating now have employment that exceeds their pre-pandemic levels. So the airlines were ready. The government is not.
How much are we looking at a real divergence between the international airlines versus the more domestic airlines? And I ask with also a focus on first class, which is commanding the biggest premium in years relative to economy. How much is really the gains that we have seen entirely driven by that international flight path, the traveler that has that much more discretionary spending?
So, Lisa, we're seeing international outbound very strong from the U.S., I think because the dollar has been relatively strong. Inbound, we're still down versus where we were, but outbound, we're above. So I think that's one thing. I think the other part of your question with respect to how the divergence between the two, I think that's definitely a summer 2023 event, maybe into 24 when you get to Asia Pacific, which is reopening now. And then domestic, I don't know, maybe people will be so overwhelmed by the price of some tickets that they'll pivot and either shift days that they travel or shift location. Instead of going to Europe because fares are so high, maybe go to Latin America, Northern South America, domestic. I think you'll see some of that pivoting because of the differential in fares.
Do you think that there's going to be some sort of decline in business travel, or is it coming back nearly to the level that it was pre-pandemic, or even more because people are just working from home and then traveling?
Right. So I don't know the specific answer to that question because my thought has been that business travel will come back in differing measures. So you need to see your clients. After a while, Zoom calls don't cut it, number one. Number two, when you get to time zone differences, it's one thing to be U.S. East Coast to London or Western Europe, where you're dealing with a 5 or 6 hour time change, you can kind of make that work. But when you start to get into the 9-hour time changes that exist in the Middle East, or 15 hours or 12 hours that exist to Asia, Australia, Japan, I think people realize it's hard to do Zoom calls at 1 o'clock in the morning for somebody while they're doing these calls. So I think at some point it does start to come back. We've thought that it would be international business would come back faster than domestic. But I think the days of, if it's Tuesday, it must be Rome kind of thing, are past us. And to the extent you might have a meeting that would be 3 hours long, you can probably get away with a 1 hour or 2 1-hour Zoom calls, not necessarily back to back. But I remember days when I flew to London for due diligence and flew home the same day, land in the morning, fly home at night. I mean, that kind of stuff isn't happening anymore.
How much are we seeing actually the resurgence of the Chinese economy percolate into air travel?
Yeah, not yet. So what you're seeing is what we experienced in the U.S. You see domestic first. So Golden Week, as I understand it, was fairly strong. We should get the numbers tonight or tomorrow. But last week was a very strong week for them. Domestic. International hasn't come back yet because the flights haven't come back. In 2016, there were over 100 flights a week between the U.S. and China, and more between China and Europe. And now there are 14 between the U.S. and China. So flights haven't come back yet. And until that happens, which was probably a 24 event at the earliest, given the political situation, maybe even later, I don't think you're going to see that dynamic come back from a tourist perspective. I think what you'll see, and what you're probably seeing right now, is family travel. People who haven't seen family in a couple of years because of the Chinese COVID policy, which had the country virtually shut down.
Yeah.
I think you see students making their way back home who maybe were trapped outside of China. But I think it's domestic is where you're seeing the strength versus international.
Just real quick here, we see oil prices coming down, which means that a lot of the margins probably will only expand. At what point do the widening margins become a political liability for some of the airline companies that are facing a lot of criticisms about the experience?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Lisa. So I think a couple of things. Fuel prices come down. Typically, ticket prices follow with something like a 3 to 4 month lag in both directions. So I think that's one thing to think about. Oil prices come down. If oil prices are coming down because we're in a recession, that should bring ticket prices down as well, maybe take some of the pressure off the airlines. The airlines do a really good job this summer, probably remove some political pressure. The airlines are one of those industries everybody loves to hate. And even though it brings people together, even though to have a good economy, you need a robust airline industry, it's one of those industries everybody likes to pick on. And so they really need to do a better job than they're doing. And I think I guess we're kind of hoping, although that's not a strategy. I think we're thinking that as they invest in technology, things will start to improve for them. But certainly the lack of seats is a problem in terms of recovery from irregular operations. So kind of a lot to unpack.